Andrew, the next speaker, we're both friends with him and both huge followers, and we love this guy. And obviously, he's done a pre-recorded talk, but we're still lucky to have him. And every talk he gives is so inspiring. I think the first one he gave to us, I think it was watched the most on your YouTube channel. So, you know, that just proves it. But anything
well, a couple things that I want to say is the poor gentleman has been stuck in Vietnam since January because of COVID. So he has a family in New York, 2 kids. So his commitment to his job and his ability to actually get home has been completely impaired. So I think that he's had a really difficult time during COVID, more than most people. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. That the second of all is that the things he does that no one knows about, which he doesn't want to necessarily share, are amazing. And there's no need to even discuss that, but he is committed to many, many projects in many, many directions to help human beings. And I think one of the problems in our industry, or not a problem, but one of the things is one doesn't have to always tell everybody what they're doing. If they're doing something, that's not really why you're doing it. So I think, and probably the most important thing he ever did is he introduced me to my wife. So that was very helpful. So I'm really happy he joins us. I'm really happy he took the time and that he cares. And last year he came, he had a terrible flu and flew into London to do the presentation. It was so, if you look at that video, he was so ill. So I know he's not ill now. And I hope everybody enjoys this presentation. It's nice.
Both dystopia and utopia share characteristics of science fiction and fantasy. And both are usually set in a future in which technology has been used to create perfect living conditions. Except that the future is here now, and imagination just got converted into reality. Fashion, and particularly denim, has lived through different eras and has witnessed at close quarters a fight against injustice. Oppression and suppression has allowed us to unite and continue to fight for justice against dystopian states in our quest for utopia. Social movements are born when certain people or certain groups of people feel that they are deprived of specific rights, goods, services, or resources. Injustice brings about movements, social in particular. The race and gender injustice, which has been damaging our society for eras, has led to movements such as the Society for Human Rights since 1924, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom since 1963, Me Too since 2006, the 99ers since 2011, the Black Lives Matter movement, which started in 2013 and peaked this year, can be considered the biggest movement in US history. In 2017, CO2 concentrations were representing 146% of pre-industrial levels. If we continue the current rate of deforestation, the Amazon forest will degrade to a point where it can no longer produce enough moisture, transforming it into a dry savanna. The environmental crisis has forced us to speak up. Greenpeace forced the textile industry to rethink their future. Fridays for Future in 2018 is a student-led movement to push governments to act on climate change. Its initiator, Greta Thunberg, has brought about a new uprising. While the Tokyo Protocol and Paris Agreements are the government's response to a unified movement. We are not oblivious to the undergoing crisis created by the fashion industry either. The Rana Plaza disaster killed more than 1,000 people. And as we speak, one container of textiles is incinerated or landfilled every second. People have raised their voices here too. Movements such as fair trade and fashion revolution are still in motion. However, our society has yet to find an efficient solution to take account of the employment and inclusion needs of more than 1 billion people. 15% of the global population has some sort of disability today. 1 in 160 children has an autism spectrum disorder. In industrialized countries, up to 70% of persons with disabilities of working age are unemployed. In developing countries, it goes as high as up to 90%. By 2050, in this world, we expect to have over 2 billion people with disabilities. And the irony is that we continue to search for life outside our planet. Just NASA alone has spent $1.19 trillion since its inception in 1958. Their 2021 budget is a staggering $25 billion, up 12% since last year. However, we have failed to invest into solutions for people on our planet. The disability rights movement is just starting. However, the scale of it has nothing in comparison to everything we have addressed so far. Hence, a major injustice, which is the inclusion, or rather should I say the non-inclusion of differently abled people, is a major injustice that is defining the dystopian world that we live in. The fact is that people with different abilities have to survive in a world that is not designed for their needs. They have to struggle much more than any of us in their daily tasks, which I personally feel makes them stronger than most of us all at the end of the day. From art to sports to science, they prove that people with disabilities are no less than people without disabilities. People like Zong, Stephen Wiltshire, Susan King, Stephen Hawking, and Marco Bristow continue to prove that people with different abilities are no less capable than people without disabilities. Taking all this into account, at Saitex we realize it's time to step up. Step up in terms of inclusivity and the reinvention of a business model. So we created Recut, our own little utopia. We built a new factory. Today we have 70 young adults with different abilities. By 2025, we will have 1,000. 10% of the Recut revenue goes towards training and hiring people with different abilities. It takes 5 months of dedicated training for each associate to be fully independent. It costs $3,000 for mainstreaming each associate, and it cost us as little as $155,000 to make this new facility accessible. At Recut, we use only excess fabrics and overruns. Excess fabrics and overruns that are generated from the current broken model. A current broken model of forecasting in the fashion industry. Recut does not generate any new material. Our goal is to upcycle 1 million kilograms of textile to avoid it from going to a landfill or from being incinerated. More so, we only produce limited editions, and our model is to go back to slow fashion with a purpose. The impact we wish to create is a movement in the pursuit of social and environmental justice. Recut is an open source model where other organizations learn the benefits of the Recut project, prompting them to participate in creating social justice. In turn, our collaborations will lead to the creation of a movement where people from marginalized groups are given the opportunities they deserve beyond the Saitex boundaries. So the new era will be inclusive, collaborative, and will benefit all. I leave you with a short film that I hope will inspire you to join us. Thank you very much.
Wow, wasn't that so inspiring? Obviously, every single time Sanjeev does any kind of talk like this, it opens up a lot of other thoughts. And isn't that amazing that he's built Factory just for these, you know, for these people that have mostly been forgotten or whatever it is, and they get to do something that they enjoy as well. It's quite amazing.